A project rarely begins at the moment you pick up a tool. It usually starts earlier, in a sketch, a measurement, or a set of instructions that promise a clear path from idea to finished result. In everyday situations, people rely on plans to reduce uncertainty. A woodworking project, a metal structure, a small off-grid system. Each one often depends on some form of documented guidance. These plans act as a bridge between intention and execution. Under normal conditions, that bridge feels stable. You follow a sequence. Materials are listed. Dimensions are defined. Steps are ordered. Behind that simplicity, there's a chain that supports the process. The chain includes standardized materials, predictable tools, accessible replacements, and shared knowledge. It also depends on clarity. When a plan is complete, it minimizes decisions. It reduces the number of unknowns. But in practice, plans are not always complete. Sometimes a measurement is missing. Sometimes a component is unavailable. Sometimes the instructions assume a tool you do not have. And sometimes the plan itself was written for a slightly different context. When that happens, the chain breaks in small but important ways. A missing dimension forces interpretation. An unavailable material forces substitution. An unclear step introduces hesitation. Each of these small interruptions slows the process. More importantly, they shift the responsibility from the plan to the person executing it. Instead of following, you are now deciding. This is where many projects stall. Not because the person lacks skill, but because the structure that supports the process is incomplete. The plan no longer carries the full weight of execution. Over time, people have developed different ways to deal with this kind of uncertainty. Some choose to stop and search for better plans. Others collect multiple references and combine them. Some rely on experience, adjusting as they go. And some move toward more flexible systems that are designed to tolerate gaps from the beginning. These approaches form a broader category of solutions. They are not tied to a single product or method. Instead, they are ways of reducing dependency on perfect instructions. One approach is redundancy. Instead of relying on one plan, you use several. If one lacks detail, another might fill the gap. This increases reliability, but it also increases complexity. You spend more time comparing and interpreting. Another approach is modular thinking. Instead of treating the project as a single fixed sequence, you break it into independent parts. Each part can be built or adjusted separately. This reduces the impact of missing information, but it requires a clearer understanding of how components interact. A third approach is adaptive execution. This relies on general principles rather than exact instructions. You understand the purpose of each step, not just the step itself. This allows you to make decisions when the plan is incomplete. However, it assumes a certain level of familiarity with the materials and tools involved. Within this broader category, there is a specific format that combines elements of these approaches. It is the use of structured execution plans designed to remain functional even when conditions are not ideal. These are not just step-by-step instructions. They are systems built around flexibility. This format often appears in two forms. One is a finished reference guide. The other is a built-from-plan system that uses common, widely available components. The idea is not to eliminate uncertainty completely, but to reduce its impact. At a functional level, this format works by organizing information differently. Instead of a single linear path, it provides layers. The first layer outlines the objective. The second layer breaks the project into sections. The third layer details each section with variations. For example, instead of specifying one exact material, it may list alternatives. Instead of assuming one tool, it may describe different methods to achieve the same result. Instead of a single measurement, it may provide a range with acceptable tolerances. This structure changes how the project is executed. When a gap appears, the system already includes possible adjustments. The user is not forced to stop. They can continue within defined limits. In built-from-plan systems, this approach becomes more visible. These guides typically include a materials list with substitutes, an assembly layout that shows relationships between parts, and a clear sequence of construction. In some cases, they also include basic wiring or power setup if the project involves electrical components. The goal is not just to show what to build, but how the parts connect and why they are arranged that way. This makes the process more resilient. If one component is missing, the structure still holds. If a step is unclear, the layout provides context. The plan becomes less rigid and more adaptable. This format is not intended to replace all other methods. It works best as an additional layer. For someone who already follows traditional plans, it offers a way to continue when those plans fall short. For someone working in a limited environment, it reduces dependence on exact conditions. It is particularly useful in situations where resources vary, small workshops, remote locations, or projects built over time rather than all at once. In these contexts, the ability to adjust without restarting becomes important. By shortening the chain between the user and the outcome, this approach changes the role of the plan. Instead of acting as a fixed script, it becomes a structured guide. It still provides direction, but it also allows for movement. Over time, this can lead to a different kind of confidence. Not the confidence that everything will go exactly as planned, but the confidence that the project can continue even when it does not. There are structured guides that document this format in detail. They show how to organize materials, how to interpret layouts, and how to adapt steps without losing the integrity of the build. For those exploring this approach, it is common to find a reference to one of these guides in the video description, where the full structure is laid out step by step.